Psalm 80, verses 8 through 13.
One of the greatest tragedies in life is the tragedy of wasted opportunity. The tragedy of not making the most of what God has set before us. You see, you and I have come into this world with certain abilities, and when God saved us, He gave us gifts and the grace to exercise those gifts. Then He gives to us the opportunities to use our abilities and our gifts to help others, to build our own lives, and to glorify His name. This is why He puts us through certain experiences, how He blesses us that we might be a blessing. Listen to Psalm 80, beginning at verse 8. Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast out the nations and planted it. Thou preparest room before it. Thou didst cause it to take deep root, and it filled the land. That vine, of course, is the nation of Israel. God delivered Israel from Egypt. God planted them like a luxurious vine in the land of Canaan. But what happened? Well, God had to break down that vine. God had to discipline His people. Why? Because that vine was not producing the fruit that God wanted it to produce. You see, God blesses us to make us a blessing. He planted Israel in the land that vine might, by its life and its testimony, bear spiritual fruit. Let the Gentile nations know the true and living God. Oh, what an opportunity God gave them to show the other nations this is what God can do for those who will trust Him and obey Him. But instead of doing that, the vine became like all the other vines, and they compromised, and they sinned. And so what did God have to do? He had to cut down His vine and discipline His people. Remember, God has planted you where you are that you might be a blessing. He wants you to take deep root, and He wants you to bear rich fruit. And if you and I will just draw upon His spiritual power, He then will enable us to be a blessing to others. Remember now, God has planted you where you are. Bloom where you are planted, and bear fruit to the glory of God and to the enriching of others.